Hey, welcome back. Now, this episode we have a tougher story to tell. If you look down on the bottom of our screen of Tachyon Corporation, we have the last 12 months bringing in a negative 5 million in profit. But the last 4 months, our profits, look at those little green bars. Isn't that cute? You know it's cute. Now, our story here is a little bit tougher to tell because we actually did the spin-off of our main profit centers. Talking about beds, hi-fis, televisions, toy car, and our department stores. We are left with our dream in another 8 R&D centers, so that's quite the expense to be offloaded into almost like a cost center business. We do not make that much of a profit. But we're getting there because our overarching dream was to become a semiconductor company, and here we are. Tachyon Corporation producing CPUs. This is our dream. Maybe we'll have to increase capacity, probably. But for now, this is it. We actually produce our silicon wafers. We transport them, produce our CPUs. We'll most likely have to produce CCDs. They're right down here being researched, so we have a minimal quality. But that's the story. And when we think about the overall strategy we have, we began, of course, with the basic profits. That's a department store that's purchased the seaports and trying to make a minimal amount of money. And then we expand into our new industries of beds and toy racing cars. This is, as you can tell, not really synergistic. They're generic, they're spread out. More than spread out, they are pulverized. And that adds up to the fact that department stores are also generic. They are not specialized. They're not carry that power to bring in an extra profit. And then we came in with our second level of industry with TVs and hi-fis, which are actually quite synergistic. They could be both sold together at electronic stores, but that was so late in the game it wasn't even worth it. And then we brought in, of course, printers as well. It's a simple product to produce. But printers, on the other hand, is also tied into the computer industry. We are producing desktop computers. Their goal is to pull demand from our CPUs and make our dream become viable. So I think printers are going to continue with us for at least the medium term, along with our computer industry. And we also took the time to produce, electronic components, which is another semi-product but is related to this industry. And so we built up this mess of businesses that are all generic, not related to each other, and we spun them off for 72 million at a market cap of 180 million. And when you compare this to Imperium Auto, this is another series that we played. Our goal was to become an auto industry. I think we were very successful in this, but our journey was far more focused, a lot clearer. It was more profitable because of that. So our basic retail was convenience stores, not very profitable, obviously, but our first level of industry, those were drugs. Came with cough pills, came with headache pills. We, in the end, had also the cough syrup. That depends on farming, so it took a little longer to produce, but we were able to produce these related products and channel them down through a specialized retail channel, which were our drugstores, which is a specialized retail business. This is very good. It was very profitable. And it came down to our industry level 2, which were the home appliances. This is a step towards the auto industry. It starts to use a little bit of steel, so that's good. But we began with washing machines. We began with air conditioners. We were not able to get refrigerators as our source of aluminum at the seaports was cut short right at the cusp of producing those industries. But having all of these together, they're synergistic. We were able to sell them through electronic stores, and then we spun it all off at 123 million with a market cap of 208 million. Far better than 72. And these shares, they actually went up. These guys, as you can tell by the news, they're actually going down to 668. They were launched at 10, so that's not very exciting when you consider that we still have a lot of the shares of the company. And if you look at the where is it, financial actions, we have the ability to take financial actions in the name of hipermercados Barcelona. So that is not very exciting. If you look at the stock exchange, if you look at hipermercados Barcelona, the shares are going down, but not under my control, none of my business. Hopefully, I'll be able to sell the shares at a profit or something like that. But that's the overall situation. Not that bright, but don't worry, it can get worse. And now make it worse right now looking at the numbers. So I tabled up the numbers for episode 6. We got the delta versus episode 5. And we had the same 2 years versus the previous episode. But the thing here is that we went from a profit of 1 billion in the previous episode down to 240 million. That's 1/4. That's not very bright. We lose what we call operating leverage. Because if you look at expenses, even though advertising went down from 24 million to 18, since these guys here went down by 3/4, our percentage of advertising as a percentage of sales went from 2.4 to 7.6. That's a huge strain into our profitability. If you think about training, we actually managed to cut that in half, but it's not cutting by 3/4. So it went up by 1.3% to 3.3%. And the funny thing to our competitors is that none of these two compare to R&D. We went from 30 million to 60 million. We double the amount spent on R&D because, of course, we have the same 5 R&D centers that we had before, and we spent that to 8. That is a huge strain on profitability. I'm glad that the developers that make this game made R&D a little bit more expensive because it is overpowered, but Tachyon shareholders are not happy. So it went from 3 to 24%. You can imagine what happens to profitability when your expenses, a single expense, goes up from 3 to 24%. Yeah, you guessed it right. We went from a 14.6% of operating profit margin to negative 6.5. Negative EBITDA. One day I'm going to have a band that's called the Negative EBITDAs, because in the negative EBITDA is a revolt against the system. It does not make sense. Do not believe it when they say they're doing a turnaround. If it has a negative EBITDA, run away. But we had a 14.6%. That was a healthy upstep versus the 12.9% we had before. But 6.5 negative, that is a pain. We went from 150 million of bucks to spend around and decide what we're going to do to have to find a way to cover up the whole 15 million. That's a huge change in situation. Lifetime profit down to a loss of 67 million. And when we look at the balance sheet, of course, the most important are cash. Went from 200 million down to 77 million. I'm glad I had a little bit of a war chest here to face this new situation. But our liabilities, they remain stable, so things aren't as bad as they could have been. Of course, we did not distribute dividends in this situation, but we did manage in this episode to begin our telephone industry and spin off those businesses that we do not want in the long run, even though they are profitable. They are not in our goal. Our goal is what matters here. You've got to become the tech industry. You've got to become Tachyon Tech, not Tachyon beds. That's not exciting. And when we think about the net debt, this is a curious one. So our net debt went from a positive cash position of 92 million to a debt position of 38 million because we have 77 million cash, but we have a 150 million debt. But since our profitability went to the negatives, you have a negative to the negative. It seems like a good situation, but this is not good. This is not analyzable. Forget it. It doesn't really matter. So this is the situation of Tachyon Tech. It's not very exciting, but I'll tell you one thing. I know why it's going wrong. I mean, you know why it's going wrong. You all know why it's going wrong. And the reason is we are Tachyon Tech. I mean, look at this logo. What's wrong here? The logo looks like eggs. Where our slogan is still Tachyon. Save money to buy more, to eat more scrambled eggs. I mean, that's not a technology slogan. We've got to reposition our corporation. We've got to make a new slogan. Hey, look at this. Just listen.
Hipermercado Tachyon.
Those are eggs, my friends. We cannot sell CPUs associating our brand eggs. We've got to come to a brand new position. Sort of like, think about the Intel logo, animation, and so forth. So we're back to square one into our audio interface, our DAW, digital audio workstation. And when you think about what Intel does, you actually go with a very simple model, like the 1, 4, 1, 5. It's that sound that you recognize. But think about that sound. What do you feel? It's very grounded, but it's also like, this is the way to go. I'm the one that knows what to do. It's almost arrogant, like, I'm nerdy, I'm the one that you should follow. And this is the way to go. It's boring, it's cliche, it's not nice. I do not like that. So what I'm thinking for Tachyon is something a little bit different. I think we should have the same very short sampled sound that comes in, and it's very quick, because we've got to have that shared advertisement with our suppliers. Like, just sneak in that little Intel animation at the end of your computer, if you're Dell or your Compact or whatever product. Compact, yeah, I remember those days. So what I'm thinking is, of course, we've got to start with the 1, because this is just our reference. We, of course, transpose this whenever you want, but we're talking about 1, the dough. But then I want to give it a little bit more body, so I'm going to double it up with an octave, of course, down. That's a little bit more interesting. Now, of course, I could go in with a little bit more on the right hand as well, just doubling everything up. Even though it does sound a little more complete, it's kind of boring, right? So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is concentrate on the first 3 notes. They're all the same, they're all does. But instead of playing this do, I'm going to analyze each of the notes, at least in the major scale, because I do want it to be happy. I do want it to be positive. So I'm going to go through these white notes. That's the major scale. And try to find what kind of brings in those emotions that I think make sense with the technology company that's bringing you CPUs, that'll bring you more power, that'll bring you more opportunities. So that's our base. It's boring. We do not want to be here. Let's try note 2. And what I feel here is when I play this, it's kind of lost. It does not know what it wants. Yeah, it's not very happy. It's not very positive. So I'm gonna rule out 2 out of the equation. So let's take a look at 3. Now this sounds a lot more powerful. It's kind of like hopeful. Right? Even if I go up or if I go down, it sounds just very misty in the dawn of day. I like that a lot. Let's try note 4. This is a famous one because Intel uses 4 as well. This subdominant note does not know what it wants, so I'm going to rule that one out as well. Let's try 5. Now 5 is a very common note. Sometimes melodies start with the 5. You know where it goes. So that sounds very good. I like it. It's well located, centered, but at the same time, it's very well resolved. This is like my option number 2. We'll come back to it. Let's take a look at note 6. That is very lost. It does not know where it wants to go. It requires support. It requires a sequence of notes. That's what I'm trying to avoid with this very short, few second animation. I think I'll have to rule that one out as well. Let's take a look at 7. Now 7 I think is very unlikely to work for obvious reasons, but you'll hear it. It does not fit at the first moment. And of course it has that huge pull to number 1, which is right next door. It'll require a lot of work to get something out of it, but that is disturbing. And just for, completeness, let's reinforce our vision about 1, but the upwards 1. That's very resolved. That's like a number 3 for me. So when I think about the order, this is number 3. That basic root, 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 root. Do, 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 do. Very well resolved, but bland. Let's think about number 2, which is the 5 note. It's a little bit more elegant, but it is bland as well. Then come down to, of course, number 3. I like that provocation. So let's double it up 1 octave with the pinky finger. That's new. It's not quite there yet. What I'm going to try to do is take this pinky and reinforce our note instead. Our root note. It's another do. Let's try that out. I find that very satisfying. But instead of ending here, I think we're very low end heavy. It's very cohesive because all notes are rather close, but I'm going to risk it and go up a full octave for my right hand. Listen to this. Gives a little bit more brightness. Has that hope. And it adds that resolution on that little pinky right there. I'm going to try 1 more octave just to make sure that I'm comfortable. And that's a little bit too twinky. I do not like that. It's a little bit too bright. And that is how I came up with this solution to what I'm planning for our little animation. So this is the recording. No big secret. I think it's a lot easier than what we had last time. But I'm going to have to develop this. If I'm successful, you'll be hearing all of this recording and you'll know what I'm talking about. If I'm not successful, you won't even hear this, so don't worry. But you'll know what I came up with in a few seconds. That's 3, 2, 1, and 0. Et voila! Here we have the final production of our audio for our Tachyon Tech commercial. Now I am following the instructions that we had for the 1131 solution. And this is fully played on the third step of the audio track. As you can tell, we have 3 steps. They're increasing in number of instruments, increasing in actually the higher registers as well. And we also have an increase in duration. So this note is a little bit shorter. This one goes a little bit longer, and this one, of course, is a little bit more extended. Then we have a final boom here. If you have a subwoofer, you'll hear it. If you don't, it's a pity. But this is what it sounds like, and then we'll run through the individual parts so you can understand what has been done. And of course, we have the voices coming in as well. And there's a lot of silence in between each of these steps. It'll tie into what I have envisioned. I'm thinking about something related to space, so you have to have a little bit of silence in there for those dramatic moments. So we begin with 4 low bass instruments. We have the double bass, a bassoon, actually 2 instrument sections, so these are 2 bassoons playing. We have a cymbali, and we have a tuba. And of course, you have the voices, which also increase in not only number of voices, but also to complete the tones. You have 1 note here, 3 iterations of the 1 note on different octaves, and then the 3 note comes in the last part. But the 3 note also comes in within the 4 of the instruments in the second part as well, along with the swooping, uplifting entry. You'll listen when we get there. So going to the double bass, this is actually a Spitfire symphonic strings. I'm using a lot of this library for the strings. So the bassoons and the other woodwinds come from the woodwinds collection, and the brass comes from their brass collection. The only different ones that I have, I've got the Symphobia Lumina for the timpani. That boom at the end is using the timpani, and the voices come from this is East-West symphonic chords. One is the voices of the Apocalypse plugin. The samples, and the other one is from the Hollywood samples. This is the Men's Word Builder hard mod. And this is, of course, if you take a look at the browser, the Vota Men's. And this one is interesting because you get to edit the words. So you can actually edit what they're saying. You can look up on the internet. You'll find some fun things to listen to. But we're going straight on with Tachyon. Tachyon on the 3 parts. So let's take a listen to the double bass from Spitfire. Very straightforward, but that bass sound is awesome. You have the 2 bassoons. It's far more controlled. It's a little bit smoother, but I think these 2 are actually very smooth when you compare it to Cymbali. Take a listen to this one. You know what this sounds like. Yeah, time to make those funny jokes. Now this is the tuba. Now they are all straight down the middle. I have a little bit of volume control in Cymbali. That is a loud instrument. Cuts through the mix like crazy, just like the trombones. They're actually very similar instruments. And this is what all 4 of them sound together. And that is that. But before we go on with the rest of the parts, I'd like to take a listen through the chorus, actually on their own and through the whole part. So you'll get to listen to what they sound like and what exactly they're saying. I have a little bit of boost on the Voda, a little more aggressive voice. As you can tell by the name, Voice of the Apocalypse, they try to bring that very sinister sound. And we have the Hollywood samples as well, which are far smoother. And we have a little bit of gain control throughout the 3 parts just to make sure that the balance with the other instruments as they come in, they continue cutting through. We've got to have those voices cutting through. So this is the Vota sound. More grander at the end, and this is the Hollywood voice. so you have an idea of how they sound together. I could have gone through a little bit deeper, played in the notes, make them play with those harmonies, but I wanted to stick to that overall bass rule. So as we come into the second part, we have the four basses. They run through equally. You take a look into how the voices sound through the entire part. But then we come in with the trombones. This is actually a 6-instrument section, and the cello. I think they're very similar in sonority, so take a listen to these so you get the feeling of how I played them. I'm also going on with the panning, so when the instruments are similar, you'll notice I have a couple of pairs. You always have one to the left, one to the right, and we balance those out. Of course, with the volume as well, so take a listen to the cello. Great sounding samples. Now the trombone. I love the trombones. They cut through any mix. They're very epic. Now both together in balance. Got a little stereo effect going there. And then repeat for the fourth part, as well as this next pair, which are the violas and the oboes. Now I've signaled them with 3 here. These are the 4 instruments that are playing that third note, and it's only them. But you'll also notice that these 4 and these 2 that I just showed you, they actually come in swelling in throughout this part. So this is the viola, playing that third note, and the oboe. And this is how they sound together, just so you feel the balance. And then we come in with the flutes and the trumpets. So the trumpets is a 2-instrument section. Very sour, and the flutes, which are very sweet. Now the trumpets and the flutes, they actually start at this lower octave and they jump up 1 octave for the last part just to give that last little touch of punch, but these are the 2 in balance. Maybe the trumpets can go down a little bit more, but that's how they are. So I'd just like to show you quickly how these 3 notes sound together. It's very uniform, and notice how it changes when it comes to the last part, those 2 octaves up. Not only do they come in higher, but they also come in louder from the beginning and for a longer duration. And then these add up with the 2 last instruments. These are actually playing the 1s at the 4th part of the whole section, of the whole track. So take a listen to the violins. And the clarinet, the sweetest of instruments. So when we bring everything together, of course, you have what you heard in the beginning, have a little bit of volume control on the top just to cut off that last end of that boom. And I also have a little bit more processing going on with this cymbali. So let's go through this one very quickly. So if I shut off these 2 plugins, we got the cymbali coming in. So it sounds like kind of dry, kind of flimsy. Then we bring in the R bass to make it prolong a little bit longer. Focus on the 71 Hertz frequency. Sounds kind of artificial, but it's to bring in that intensity so that low air can do its magic with those very low frequencies. And of course, cut it off with the master track. Now, as for the master, got a couple of things going on. This is how it sounds without any processing on the last 4th part. It's kind of clipping, it's okay. We'll control it throughout these steps. And of course, you gotta keep in mind that, yeah, so that's it. So just a compressor. Already coming in pretty aggressive to hold that. It's almost like a limiter here, the very short 43 picosecond attack time, but it's very smooth with 1.6 ratio. Then we come in with a little bit of echoing from Abbey Road Chambers. There's a little bit of space to the sound. And then we have Ozone, of course, coming with an equalizer, a multi-band compressor, these configurations, and a maximizer. I think it's 0.2 ceiling, but kind of soft because at the end we have another maximizer just to take that through several steps instead of punching it right in the face with one single plugin. It's already coming alive. Then we have the last plugin with a 0.6 ceiling and a 1.3 threshold for maximizing that volume. And there you have it. This is audio, so we've got this printed out, and now we've got to work on the visuals. So let's take a last listen, and I'll see you in Blender. If you thought you never liked classical music, well, just listen to your favorite soundtracks. See you soon. And we're back with the final result. Check it out. Tell me what you think. And this is how we got it done in Blender. So as you can tell, we've got our three little blocks. I've gone through a little bit of extra modeling here, so I made them beveled, added a second material on the ring. So now it's just a ring and not the whole sides that are yellow. And I have a couple of shading tricks going on as well, but when we think about the animation, I'll just do the play here as you can see. Playing very subtly with these angles. And here at the end, I've got some particles that I actually had to hide so that it didn't get too heavy. But they also have some lighting effects. Tell it to come in a little bit closer. And they are reproducing some icospheres that I have up here. It's actually a collection. There are 3 of them. Slightly different colors, slightly different shading. If I go to their shadings in particular, we've got this node set up. And basically playing with the age of the particle and its lifetime. I divide one by the other, and then we go through the color ramp, which changes its colors as it starts super hot and cools off, as well as the value of this light, separating the value of this color according to the color ramp as well. And as this advances, it goes running through this little bar until it turns black with emission strength of 0. And that is the particles. When I talk about the blocks, I have some interesting effects going on. It was discovered by accident, but I've got it with anisotropic levels to 1. And that's how we get that interesting look at the end. That's how you get this little disc effect. And it's also very prominent here in this part of the video as well. So yeah, now we have a marketing campaign. I also have the ring, of course. These are the emitters, and the blocks themselves, their shading. Sorry, got 2 materials on them. Look over here. The base, simple black anisotropic, and the ring, which has this black body color at 1500, and the emission strength is animated. So that's it. And yeah, let's take another watch before we get back to the game. And as you can notice at the very end, the only light source are those particles. So they are what illuminate the room, and then as they die out, it all fades black to pure darkness. Great. See you in the next step.